Hello, this is Colin welcoming you to the 2177th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline 7th of February 2019. The readers this week are Geoffrey, Joan, Colin and Sonia with Hass on the controls. The editor was Phillip and the production and distribution team is Peter and Sandra. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Brewer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from the Enfield Independent and the February edition of Enfield Dispatch. The lead story this week, Killer jailed for New Year's Eve stabbing. Before the news, we have the sunrise and sunset times for the week, beginning 11th of February. And they are sunrise at 7:23 and sunset at 17:08. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She is your listeners' representative and will be pleased to help you. Now Sonia will read the first item of local news.
Killer jailed for New Year's Eve stabbing. A New Year's Eve killer who took the life of a teenager has been jailed for 21 years. Guy Bowler, 22, of Stonebridge Road, Enfield, was found guilty of Meshach dos Santos Cornelio's manslaughter by a unanimous jury verdict on November the 21st. The court heard how police were called by London Ambulance Service at around 11:30 a.m. on December the 31st, 2017, to an address in Larmans Road, Enfield, to reports of stabbing. Meshach was found with stab wounds and was treated by paramedics at the scene before being airlifted to an East London hospital. Despite medical treatment, he died at 8:28 p.m. When officers searched the scene, they found Class A drugs and equipment often used for the cutting and bagging of drugs. Intelligence also suggested that the victim had been running county lines for Bowler, but had decided to set up his own line, which caused friction between the two men. A witness who was in the property at the time of the arrest told the officers that shortly before 11:30 a.m., Meshach and a friend were present in the flat cutting and bagging drugs when three suspects entered the address demanding the drugs line phone from Meshach. Meshach knew the men as he voluntarily buzzed them up via the flat intercom. A vicious attack followed, in which he was punched in the head and stabbed in the chest. Detective Sergeant Brett Hagen from the Met's Homicide and Major Crime Command said, "Whilst most of us were likely celebrating on New Year's Eve, a young man's life was taken by a violent, vicious and dangerous individual who did everything he could to protect and expand his county lines drugs business." Bowler went into the property that morning intending to steal a drugs line mobile phone from Meshach and knowing he would use violence in order to steal it. As a result of his actions, another young man is dead. Nothing can ever bring Meshach back, but hopefully his family can take comfort in the fact that the person responsible will spend a number of years of his life behind bars. The suspects made off with the drugs phone, plus other phones, cash and drugs. The witness recognised the leader of this trio of suspects and the male who punched the victim to be the main drug dealer in the area, named Guy Bowler. Bowler handed himself into police at Wood Green Police Station at 6 p.m. on Monday, January the 8th. He was charged on Tuesday, January the 9th, and appeared in custody at Highbury Magistrates Court on Wednesday, January the 10th. He was found not guilty of murder after a trial at the Old Bailey in July this year, but the jury could not reach a verdict on manslaughter. He was found guilty after retrial. He was sentenced at Blackfriars Crown Court on Thursday, January the 31st. He will have to serve a minimum of 14 years in jail.
This article is called Show the Love, and it's by somebody called Jo Johnson from Love Your Doorstep. After Christmas, we now find ourselves hurtling towards another of the all-important retail calendar dates, Valentine's Day. There are a few different theories about the origins of this particular celebration, the most popular being that it honours a Roman saint. Before you let out a collective groan, I would like to suggest that Valentine's Day doesn't have to be the overly commercialised, overpriced event that people perceive us to be pressured into. You don't need to break the bank to make a romantic gesture. Just a card or small token of affection can go a long way when showing how much someone means to you. At Love Your Doorstep, we believe any excuse to support our local economy is a good one, and if Valentine's Day helps to shine a spotlight on our local businesses and encourages people to shop locally, then surely that's a win-win situation. We have some beautifully stocked local independent gift shops, such as Déjà Vu in Enfield, Ruby Blue at the Dugdale Centre, and Tinker Tailor in Bush Hill Park. There are just some of the places you can have a browse and pick up gifts and cards with a personal touch. If you want a bespoke card made, then we have creative people in our business directory who can make one for you. Likewise, if it's a handmade gift you're planning, our talented bunch of craft businesses can turn your ideas into a reality. Flowers are always a popular option for this day of romance. It is estimated that flowers contribute £102 million towards the £650 million spent annually on Valentine's Day. Our local florists are on hand to assist with your floral requirements, or if it's chocolates you're after, one of our newest businesses makes chocolate bouquets. Furthermore, if you want to wine and dine your partner, we have a great selection of pubs and restaurants. Browse the directory for what you fancy and book a table, whether it's a nice steak, pasta dish, or pub food to dine out with, or even fish and chips to take away. We can help. And if you're looking for ideas for a Valentine's night out, Janet Kay and Carol Thompson return to the Millfields Theatre for their special live concert, Lovers Rock Magic, for a belated Valentine's night out. The following evening, at the very same venue, you can watch The Opera Boys. Alternatively, you could buy tickets for one of the upcoming events at our local venues for a future date night.
I have an item here which is headed Mini Holland Petition, handed to number 10. And there is a picture at the side of it of 7 people outside the door of number 10 Downing Street. This item is by James Cracknell, and the subheading is claims new cycle lanes discriminate against disabled people. Campaigners against the Mini Holland cycling programme have handed a petition to number 10 Downing Street claiming new cycle lanes in Enfield discriminate against disabled people. The 5-page petition, addressed directly to Prime Minister Theresa May, states that elderly, disabled and blind people have been dealt a major injustice based on negligent road planning. Among the 21 demands, the petition calls on the government to force local authorities, such as Enfield Council, that have introduced shared space programmes, reduced pavement width and Orca road celebrations or segregations, to conduct an urgent accessibility audit and remedial works to ensure safe access for all. It comes after a spate of reported accidents involving the Orca road humps. They're so called because of their resemblance to killer whales, and they're installed as part of the A105 cycle scheme. They're intended to help segregate new cycle lanes from the main carriageway, but have been described quite correctly as trip hazards because of the way they present obstacles to pedestrians crossing the road. In one incident in Green Lanes, a mum tripped over an orca, fractured her kneecap, and this forced her to spend Christmas on crutches. Several other incidents were cited in the petition submitted to the Prime Minister in January. And it's interesting to note that Camden Council removed similar Orca road segregations over safety fears in 2017. The Mini Holland petition lists 20 supporting organisations, including several other local residents' associations across the Enfield Borough, plus disability groups such as Transport for All and National Federation for the Blind. Dr. Linda Green, speaking on behalf of Enfield Town Residents Association, wrote, "We understand the desire to improve safety for cyclists, but this cannot and must not be at the cost of creating risks and decreasing access for vulnerable pedestrians." And she argues that this situation would never have been allowed to arise had a competent equality impact assessment been conducted and its recommendations adhered to. Explaining the motivation behind the petition, Dr. Green said, "This petition is just the first part of a campaign to change the law." The A105 cycle scheme, part of the ongoing 30 million Mini Holland programme supported by the Mayor of London, was completed last year. However, the Council is now conducting a public consultation on the removal of experimental traffic orders so that the cycle lanes can become permanent. The Council, it is noted, did not respond to requests for a comment before the newspaper went to press.
It seems opportune to read a letter about cycling culture written by David Hughes of Conway Road, Palmer's Green. He refers to the opinion piece by G.A. Musey, Who Plays for Scheme? on January the 16th, and says that article asked a second question: where are they? They being the flood of cyclists he expects to use the cycle lanes on the A105, green lanes. I have the answer. Around 1960, the car age saw rapid growth. People ceased cycling to work, school and shops and replaced it with driving. Not a good thing even then in terms of air quality, rat runs in residential streets, loss of exercise and particularly kids' freedoms. But now cars have come to dominate urban space, much reducing the pleasure and safety of walking and cycling. Fortunately, Enfield Council has had the foresight to work towards redressing the balance, including by installing cycle lanes, thereby creating a feeling of safety and security for new recruits, but also by reducing carriageway space for traffic as an incentive to leave the car at home for short journeys. Even so, a return to cycling will not happen overnight. Britain's cycling culture has been lost and needs nurturing if it is to return. Many don't even own a bike. Hopefully, though, the carriageway reduction along green lanes and rat-running limitation in residential areas along that road will be sufficient incentive to cycle or, failing that, to take to public transport with associated walking. Expect a long wait before the cycle lanes are fully used. Finally, a plea. Probably most drivers don't have experience of being a cyclist and therefore don't think much about passing one in their car. But they must allow plenty of room between vehicle and bike, and that should be a car's width. A small wobble, perhaps caused by a pothole or a stone, and what would happen?
4 simple words: back off our bins. Enfield's Labour administration was told to back off our bins as Tory councillors claimed residents wanted to keep weekly collections. Conservatives warned switching collections to once every fortnight could worsen fly tipping and lead to dirty streets, particularly in the more built-up east of the borough. The Conservative group says weekly black and blue bin rounds should continue, while the council should take additional steps to boost recycling rates. But Labour councillors claim the government's decision to slash funding for key services meant they had to look for new ways of saving cash. The row at last Wednesday's full council meeting followed a consultation in which the council asked members of the public for their views on 7 proposals for a shake-up of the refuse service. Conservative councillor Lindsay Rawlings told the meeting 3 of the options on the public consultation were not valid as they did not comply with the Mayor of London's environment strategy. She added that the Tories' recent success in the Bush Hill Park by-election showed public opinion was behind them when it came to bins. Councillor Rawlings said, having lived in Edmonton for 27 years until recently, I know incidents of dumped black sacks are higher in the east of the borough. I do not understand how any change in the timing of bin collections will not make the situation worse. I have recently seen a large number of adverts for council pest control services, and I do have to ask if they are linked to any changes that might take place. But council leader Councillor Nezel Kaliskan warned that failing to save money on bin rounds could mean making cuts elsewhere, meaning less support for vulnerable groups such as elderly people and the homeless. She said, we have 3 Labour MPs in Enfield. Enfield residents have not voted for any of the cuts the Tories are forcing us to make. The cost of delivering waste services is due to increase. If we maintain the current service provision, the council would need to fund the services by an additional £1.5 million. The opposition members know this, so presumably they would fund it from reserves or increase council tax or cut funding from a different department. Councillor Kaliskan added that the government had pulled the plug on an £18 million grant to the council that would have helped to maintain weekly collections. Councillor James Hockney, who won the Bush Hill Park by-election with an increased majority for the Conservatives, said the bins had been a major issue during the campaign. He said this council chamber has the opportunity today to send a clear message to the executive in 4 simple words: back off our bins. But Councillor Mary Maguire, Cabinet Member for Finance and Procurement, said up and down the country councils are having to make the same choices. There are Tory councils doing exactly what the opposition is telling us not to do. It is a fact of the harsh realities of funding cuts from this austerity-obsessed, Brexit-bungling government. Labour members voted against the Conservative proposals, but pledged to take on board all responses to the bin consultation before reaching a decision on the waste services future.
Calls to boost police spending. Enfield Council has called for more police on the streets to tackle the crime wave hitting the borough. Councillors last week urged the government to boost police spending and officer numbers in Enfield following a spate of stabbings and shootings. The borough's rate of serious youth violence was the highest in London in the 12 months to November, with 397 recorded offences. But the number of serious youth violence offences fell in December after extra police were brought in to tackle the problem. Labour councillors claimed the rising crime rate was down to government funding cuts that meant the Metropolitan Police had lost 3,000 police officers since 2010. A motion tabled to Councillor Nonenka Chiesa, Cabinet Member for Community Safety and Cohesion, called on the government to prioritise the safety of Londoners and residents of Enfield and increase police funding and police numbers in our borough. But while the Conservatives agreed there was a need for greater police presence in Enfield, they blamed the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, for failing to prioritise police spending. Councillor Mahtab Uddin, Labour member for Upper Edmonton, told last Wednesday's full council meeting, government cuts have affected the fabric of our society. Enfield has lost about 400 police officers. Our young people do not feel safe. Elderly people do not feel safe. Parents do not feel safe. They do not know if their children will return home safely. Our young people should not be joining gangs and carrying knives to feel safe. Enfield needs a cross-party solution to tackle rising crime figures. He called for a government that serves the many, not the few, after pointing out that the Met Police's budget had been cut by £850 million since 2010. But Conservative leader Councillor Joan Laban said her party's budget proposals for the Greater London Assembly would free up more funding for police. She claims the mayor could divert funds from public relations and other areas of spending to boost police numbers. Councillor Laban said, "I believe the mayor has to do his part. He has the ability to choose to spend money to create 1,400 extra police officers.
I have a brief item which is headed up Council Reclaims Cemeteries. The management of 5 publicly owned cemeteries will be taken over by Enfield Council. Burial services at Lavender Hill, Strayfield Road, Hertford Road, and Edmonton and Old Southgate cemeteries, including maintenance, site improvement works, and general upkeep, will now be run by the Council's Parks Department. Goonie Dogan, Cabinet Member for the Environment, said the move would enable us to provide a high-quality, adaptable and value-for-money service. He added, "We know that arranging a funeral can be a sensitive and distressing time, and we're determined to make it as straightforward as possible for grieving families."
Money in the Bank. A national education charity uses an Enfield school to trial microeconomy learning project. Parents fear their children will grow up poorer than them and miss out on opportunities to buy their own homes in the future. These worries are driving a new call for financial education in schools, which parents feel is one of the most effective ways for the next generation to avoid the poverty trap. Nearly half, 44% of parents, want compulsory finance education at school, but more than a quarter, 26%, say their child's primary school simply isn't doing enough to help, according to a survey conducted by financial education charity Red Start. Without the resources, time and expertise required to teach financial acumen, teachers face an uphill battle. Red Start's research also found that 26% of parents think teachers lack the right support and knowledge to teach kids the critical money-saving habits they need. That is why the charity, which is dedicated to financial education among primary school children, is commencing a long-term study at an Enfield school. The initiative will monitor and assess children's attitudes to money before and after financial education training over the course of a year. To prove that financial education helps to not only develop good habits that they will keep for a lifetime, but boosts pupils' prowess at maths and their personal, social and health education. The study takes the form of an interactive, self-contained microeconomy at Worcester's Primary School in Goat Lane, Forty Hill, where pupils are earning, saving and spending pretend currency, known as acorns. 3 outbuildings have been converted into a bank, named by pupils at the school as the Oak Bank, plus a shop and product showroom. As well as the pretend currency, there is also an online banking platform. Pupils will earn acorns, which they can put into a current or a savings account that earns interest over time. Over the course of the programme, data from the banking platform will be analysed to see whether students move money from their current account to a savings account after attending Red Start's workshops, where they are taught about earning interest, along with other financial skills. The initiative has been supported by donations from AXA Investment Managers and MASH Virtual, and Red Start is confident the results will be useful in the charity's drive to prove that financial education for primary school children should be compulsory. Karen Jaggi, head teacher at Worcester's primary school, said, "It has been a pleasure working with Red Start to create our very own student bank. Its lessons plans are easy to teach and have been seamlessly integrated into our current learning programme. We are planning to use the currency to reward our students for good behaviour and outstanding work. This project will not only excite and inspire our children, but educate them in the basics of financial management for the future. We can't wait for it to be up and running and to see the impact of this very worthwhile initiative to ensure our pupils are financially literate when they leave school." Julian Wright, head of education expansion at Red Start, added, "We know children form their money habits by the age of 7, and parents seem to agree that the earlier children learn these schools, the better. To find out more and download free Red Start lesson plans, visit redstarteducate.org. Red Start Educate is written as all one word, .org. And there is a fine photo of 6 children and a teacher standing in front of the 3 outbuildings at Worcester's primary school, which have been converted into a bank, a shop and a product showroom, where children can learn to use the currency.
7 boroughs agree to waste plan. A cross-borough plan to manage North London's waste took a big step forward on Thursday as Haringey became the last council to rubber stamp the scheme. The North London Waste Plan is an agreement between 7 boroughs that aims to ensure they are able to process the waste they produce up to 2035. Under the scheme, Barnet, Enfield, Hackney, Waltham Forest and Haringey have identified sites that would be suitable for the construction of a new waste plant. Waste development could also take place in the other local authorities signed up to the scheme, Camden and Islington, even though sites have not been earmarked in those boroughs. The site put forward by Haringey Council, Pinkham Way, near the North Circular Road, has led to controversy due to its importance as a conservation area. Enfield councillor Yasmin Brett, who represents the nearby Bowes ward, was temporarily suspended from the council's cabinet after she expressed opposition to the inclusion of the Pinkham Way site in the plan at a meeting in November. At Thursday's extraordinary full council meeting in Haringey, campaigners from the Pinkham Way Alliance urged councillors not to include the site in its submission to the North London Waste Authority. The site has been designated a site of importance for nature conservation, and Chairman Stephen Bryce told the meeting it was home to rare species such as slowworms. He said this Labour council appears out of step not only with its own planning policy, but with the Labour Party's own biodiversity policy. In its paper Green Transformation, the Labour Party sets out its concerns about the UK being one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world, and concludes that is why Labour takes the issue of biodiversity decline seriously. Liberal Democrat Councillor Sakini Sheno, called on the council to reject the inclusion of the Pinkham Way site and allow the other boroughs to go ahead with the waste plan. She said there are 1,500 trees on the site, and they absorb some of the very high pollution from traffic on the North Circular. None of the other boroughs are offering conservation sites. But council leader Councillor Joseph Efor warned that if Haringey did not approve the submission, it could set back the whole project, which has already been 6 years in the making, putting under threat North London's ability to manage its waste. All of the other North London boroughs had already signed off the scheme, and Haringey's approval was required to move to the consultation stage. Councillor Efor said every local authority has a statutory duty to be self-sufficient in waste management. We need to manage the waste we generate in North London. The council has to take a big picture view on how to dispose of our waste. He added that there was no current plan for a waste facility at Pinkham Way, and any proposals would first have to be approved by the council's planning committee.
Criticism over housing scheme. Enfield Council has come under fire after a cabinet report revealed extra cash will have to be pumped into a delayed housing scheme, writes Simon Allen, local democracy reporter. Conservative opposition leader Joan branded the situation a disgrace and called for people to be sacked after the report revealed the small sites house building scheme, which aims to provide 140 homes, would be delayed for several months. The report states discrepancies in designs by contractor AMCM led to cost overruns and homes due in early 2019 being delayed until June. It comes after earlier delays meant that some half-completed homes had to be pulled down because of weather damage. Council leader Nessil Kaliskan, responding to the criticism, said the report sets out a direction to get Phase 1 back on track and ensure that overall there is a positive contribution to housing revenue account.
I have an item here which is in the form of a letter, and it's a letter from Ros Rosenblatt, who is head of London Diabetes UK. And it says, "Dear Enfield Dispatch, since our founding in 1934, Diabetes UK has been at the forefront of diabetes breakthroughs. We've campaigned for change in diabetes care, supported people across the UK through our helpline and local support groups. We've championed the work of healthcare professionals and funded life-changing research. From the development of the first insulin pen in the 1970s, or indeed the launch of the digital handheld blood glucose meter, to being closer than ever to making the artificial pancreas a reality, and that too has been funded by Diabetes UK, which continues to change the lives of people with diabetes for the better. And now, as we learn more about type 2 diabetes, we want to make remission from the condition a reality for as many people as possible. Diabetes UK's direct study, our largest ever research award, has added to the evidence that remission can be achieved and that this can be potentially done through routine NHS care. And this letter is signed, as I said, by Ros Rosenblatt, who is head of London Diabetes. I have one other item totally not connected with that one, and this is headed up Night Out. And this is a murder mystery on Thursday, February the 14th at 7 p.m. at Salisbury House, Berry Street West, which is London N9, 9LA. And it reads, "Take a step back in time and enjoy a 1960s themed murder mystery. An evening full of cocktails, canopies, live music, and of course murder. play a suspect, or enjoy watching everyone else as though butter wouldn't really melt in their mouths. To learn more about this, visit enfieldfestivals.co.uk/what's on.
Educating Enfield. For nearly 80 years, a charity has helped to educate local people from all walks of life. The Workers' Education Association, WEA, is Britain's major charitable voluntary adult education organisation, existing to provide high-quality learning opportunities with professional lecturers for adults from all walks of life. The WEA also has a social and community role, providing courses from literacy and numeracy to accredited courses leading to certificate and diploma qualifications. Many ex-students have progressed to full-time degrees, and some have become WEA tutors themselves, including former Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock, broadcaster Melvyn Bragg. Suffragettes Sylvia Pankhurst and Emily Davidson also worked for the WEA in the years before the First World War. An important aspect of the WEA is the opportunity for socialising. There is always a break halfway through for chat and coffee when many lifelong friendships have been forged. Delving into the archives and memories of members, we can see why the WEA's 3 historic local branches, Edmonton, Enfield and Southgate, are inextricably entwined. From the Treasurer's account books, it seems the Edmonton branch was founded in 1941. Edmonton and Enfield amalgamated in 1964, and then merged again with Southgate in September 2005 to become the present Enfield and Southgate branch. Some of our existing members have long memories that go back to 1952, when all the courses were evening classes for the benefit of those working. A one-day course was introduced, however, for housewives at home. The classes are now almost predominantly held in the daytime, with one evening course. Enfield and Southgate WEA now runs courses in Enfield and Palmer's Green. These can cover subjects as diverse as geology, art history, music, literature, social history, and film studies. The first meeting of the daytime courses is free. People can pay and enrol at the second session. After Easter, there is always a short course up to half-term. And at the invitation of Beaumont Care Homes, there is also another one in June on art history for both residents and the general public. WEA's Southgate House is in Cannon Hill and is perhaps better known as North Met House. A lecture day is held at the beginning of September, which is usually on literature, and there are occasional Saturday morning lectures. An annual coach outing is organised in May or June to places of historical and archaeological interest. At the beginning of September, Enfield Town Library makes a table available just inside the entrance to promote WEA with posters, publicity material and brochures. The branch is also affiliated with the Enfield's Over 50s Forum, which promotes our courses, and we also advertise on various local websites and online directories. Enfield and Southgate is a large and thriving branch of WEA with a lot to offer. Do please sample some of our courses. For more information, visit wea.org.uk/London/branches/WEA Enfield-Southgate-branch.
War Memorials New Home. Memorials dedicated to council employees who died in the First and Second World Wars have been given a new home. The Southgate Town Hall staff war memorials, originally situated in the main entrance to Southgate Town Hall, are now situated in Palmer's Green Library, Broomfield Lane. The memorials commemorate the employees of Southgate Council who died fighting in the World Wars. The memorials were formally unveiled by the Mayor of Enfield, Councillor Sarai Caracas, last Wednesday, in the presence of relatives of some of the fallen. In a moving ceremony, the names of all the men commemorated were read to the assembled gathering. The ceremony was organised by Southgate District Civic Trust, whose members were joined by staff from Enfield Library and Enfield Museum community groups and Charity Civic Voice. Joan McCartney, Deputy Mayor of London, and a number of councillors were also present. The military were represented by members of the 4th Battalion, Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment, and a bugler from the Welsh Guards.
A notice from Marcus at Tate Britain. On Monday the 18th of February 2019 at 11 a.m, we will be describing the totally new Art Now display by Jessie Darling. Jessie works between London and Berlin and creates sculptures which look at the link between art, health, disability, Batman and St. Jerome and the Lion. Meeting point is at the Manton Studio for refreshments before the tour. For more information, call Marcus on 077 331 10244 or email marcus.dickiehawley@tate.org.uk.
The next item concerns primarily the Hadley Wood area, and it's headed up Residents Influence National Tree Policy. Campaigning by local residents has helped contribute to a government review into the way railway line-side vegetation is managed. Hadley Wood was one of 3 local areas consulted by the authors of a new report which looked at how both passenger safety and wildlife can be considered by Network Railway when managing its thousands of miles of line side across the country. Last year, residents launched a campaign against tree felling either side of Hadley Wood Station. Hundreds of trees were cut down in early 2018, destroying valuable wildlife habitat and leaving the railway banks totally bare. Hadley Wood Association, which is known as HWA, and Hadley Wood Rail Users Group persuaded managers from Network Rail to visit the site where trees had been cut down, later prompting an apology from the company. Robert Wilson, HWA chairman, told the Dispatch they were putting in new fencing with these spikes that made Hadley Wood look like Alcatraz and cutting down trees to make way for it. It was totally disproportionate. We brought in the Tree Council and persuaded Network Railway to stop the work until they had a new model for managing the area. You could call it the Hadley Wood model, and instead of stripping back all the way to the fence, they no longer cut down trees that wouldn't strike the line if they fell, or trees like hawthorn that are not tall enough to fall on the tracks. A tree planting trial is now underway at Hadley Wood, and this will help inform similar restoration work elsewhere. Robert said there will be a new hedgerow, which is a mixture of trees that don't grow very tall and will make better habitats for wildlife. Unfortunately, it will take a long while for the line side to be completely restored, and at the moment it still looks quite bare. Rail Minister Andrew Jones, after a visit to Hadley Wood to launch the Varley report, said line-side vegetation and wildlife on our rail network are valuable assets which do really need protection. I understand people's comments when they see trees being cut down, but it's important to recognise that without effective management, we do risk delays and compromise the safety for passengers.
A Christmas lights display in Chalfont Green, Edmonton Green, has helped raise £330 for a national children's charity. Charles and Sandy Turner fitted a collection box to the garden wall of their home, so passers-by who stopped to enjoy the illuminations could make a donation to the NSPCC. In 2017, the couple raised £75 from the display, but for Christmas 2018, they quintupled their collection by raising £361. Charles said, "We hoped to raise more than last year's amount, so when we opened the collection box and discovered we had raised more than £300, my wife and I were thrilled. Yes, we might put on the display, but it is thanks to the generosity of the public that we have managed to raise that amount." The Turners' front garden featured several inflatable snowmen, Santa Clauses, a gazebo, plus a seesaw and a snow globe that children were able to have their photos taken in. There was also a snow machine, which was switched on for spectators in return for a donation. It takes a month to erect the display each year, says Charles. It is a lot of hard work, but seeing the smiles on people's faces and knowing the display is helping to raise money for a good cause at the same time makes it all worthwhile.
And now for a sport item. Towners continue playoff challenge with 4-goal win. Enfield Town continued their playoff push with a thumping 4-0 win over lowly Margate on Saturday. Having taken the lead before the break through Billy Bricknell, Andy Leese's men wrapped the game up with 3 quick-fire goals after the interval from Mickey Parcell, Mark Weatherstone and new loan recruit Carl Oleid. The win leaves Enfield 6th in the Bostik Premier Division table, ahead of last Tuesday night's trip to Bishop Stortford. Goalkeeper Joe Wright was missing for the Towners after failing a late fitness test on a foot problem, and with Dan Ruman suffering from flu, Enfield were forced into a defensive reshuffle. Remy Sutton lined up at the heart of defence, while Aaron Green slotted in at left wing-back, with Matt Nolan making his second appearance of the season in goal. Enfield had the better of the opening stages of this game, going close, when Joseph Hungbu cut in from the right and fired over, and Ryan Blackman was off target from a Sam Young's corner. Jack Paxman responded with an effort for the visitors that was blocked, but it was still all Enfield, as Oleid, starting his 1-month loan spell from Hampton and Richmond Borough, cut inside from the left to win a corner, and Parcell blazed wide from the rebound of a blocked Bricknell effort. Town were almost made to pay for their misses when Margate created 2 excellent chances. Finally, though, Town took one of their numerous chances as 10 minutes before half-time, Green picked up a Matt Johnson throw-in and clipped a fine ball into Bricknell, who steered his header past Louis Wells. Town put the game to bed inside 15 second-half minutes, hitting 3 quick-fire goals that ensured there was no way back for Margate. The 4th goal arrived just beyond the hour mark, and it was debutant Oleid that was credited with the final touch after a corner from the right came off a Margate defender. Margate had a glorious chance to grab a consolation goal after goalkeeper Nolan was caught dwelling on the ball, but Solis shot high and wide of the goal after racing onto the loose ball. After 17 matches without a clean sheet for the home side, they now have 2 in 2 after this game and their previous 3-0 victory at Worthing.
The first families move into Electric Quarter. The leader of Enfield Council has officially welcomed families into 21 homes for affordable rent in Ponders End's Electric Quarter. Several families have already enjoyed seeing in the new year in their new homes, part of an innovative 5-acre development sitting at the heart of the regeneration of the area. The council is working with Lovell Partnerships Limited, who completed and handed over the social rented units to the registered provider, North London Muslim Housing Association, in December 2018. Enfield Council's leader, Councillor Nesil Khaliskan, who greeted some of the tenants at an official event last Monday, said Ponders End is a key regeneration priority area, and the Electric Quarter is just one of several exciting projects underway. The council's aim is to accelerate the provision of affordable housing in the borough and to create economically vibrant, welcoming and safe town and district centres that will stand the test of time. I would like to welcome all the new families to the Electric Quarter, and I wish them well. The first phase of the development has seen the construction of 40 town houses for private sale alongside the 21 affordable rental homes. Atop the apartments sits a communal play area. All the homes are highly energy sufficient, with heat and hot water provided by Energetic, the council's wholly owned energy company. The second phase of the development, which has already begun, will deliver 106 new homes for sale and for rent, a nursery, a new library, and commercial units, which will all contribute to the thriving neighbourhood. Lovell's construction director, Chris Wallace, said, "We have thoroughly enjoyed being part of the Electric Quarter's journey. We look forward to continuing our working relationship with Enfield Council and other partners to complete this exciting scheme and the high-quality homes it provides."
I have an item here which is headed up "Have Your Say on Health and Wellbeing Consultation." Enfield Council is seeking residents' views on a strategy it hopes will help improve the health and well-being of everyone in Enfield. A consultation on the new joint health and well-being strategy runs on the Enfield Council website until February the 10th. The strategy aims to make it easier for people to be physically active, eat healthily, be smoke-free, and live longer in good health. Councillor Aliv Kazigulu, the chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, which helped develop the strategy, says, "Our vision is to increase the health of everyone living in Enfield by making the healthy option the first choice for all our residents." The new strategy is intentionally taking a very preventative approach. Enfield Council's Cabinet Minister for Public Health, Councillor Yasmin Brett, said, "We know that the easier we make it for people, especially in the early years, to develop healthier lifestyles, such as eating healthily, being physically active, and not smoking, the more likely it is that people will live longer to good and physical health." We're working with our partners to help improve the health of well-being of our communities, and it is important because it reduces the likelihood of people developing illnesses and conditions which are largely preventable. This in turn helps prevent the impact of conditions such as heart disease, stroke and cancer, and of course these have very considerable effects on individuals and indeed their families. And in addition, of course, it avoids unnecessary hospital admissions and reducing the burden on social services. The consultation can be viewed at http://www.enfield.gov.uk/JHWS. A meeting has also been arranged for February the 18th at Green Towers Community Centre between 9:45 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. to discuss the whole strategy. Places can be booked by emailing info@healthwatchenfield.co.uk, or, of course, you can call 020 8373 6283. I'll give you that number again. 020 8373 6283.
Warning over crucial railway upgrades. A call to boost services at new train station to support home building plans. Plans to build tens of thousands of new homes in the Lee Valley could be scuppered if rail services are not drastically improved, a local transport group has warned. Fears are growing that the funding needed to build both Crossrail 2 and upgrade the West Anglia Main Line is in jeopardy, potentially impacting Enfield Council's flagship housing project, Meridian Water. Delays and cost overruns to Crossrail 1 are likely to have a knock-on effect with Crossrail 2, currently expected to open in the early 2030s, and serve stations in both the east and west of Enfield Borough, including the new Meridian Water Station, due to open this May. Meridian Water is slated to provide 10,000 homes over the next 20 years, but has itself been delayed after 2 deals with master developers collapsed in 2017 and 2018. The council is now leading on the project, and the first 725 homes are under construction. However, Meridian Water Station will only be served by 2 trains per hour when it opens. It had previously been hoped that a daily service of 4 trains per hour, seen as a minimum requirement for suburban routes, would be ready much sooner. The council lost a judicial review case against the Department for Transport 3 years ago, after discovering Network Rail would not provide such a high-frequency service when the new station opens. Philip Ridley, from Enfield Transport Users Group, told the Dispatch, "You have got 10,000 new homes being built and a station with only 2 trains per hour to serve them. Crossrail 2 is now on ice. How are you going to get people living there if they have to wait half an hour for a train?" Documents recently obtained by Phillip via a Freedom of Information request revealed that Network Rail sought savings of £25 million in the construction of a 3rd track at Meridian Water, and in doing so made the future construction of a 4th track, a crucial component for boosting service frequency to 6 to 8 trains per hour, more difficult. Philip added, "We don't actually know what additional costs there are for Network Rail to boost capacity of the line, but we now know they have made savings. When you get a train every 15 minutes, they call it turn up and go, because you don't have to look up the timetable before you go to the station. That is what they need for Meridian Water, and without it, I don't know how they can build 10,000 homes there. The future of the whole borough rests on this. Without delivering homes in this part of Enfield, they are going to have to build homes on the green belt in other areas." The council is currently bidding to win government funding for a series of transport improvements in and around Meridian Water, some of which is earmarked for upgrading the West Anglia main line to provide 6 to 8 trains per hour. Crossrail 2 could subsequently provide 12 trains per hour, allowing even more homes to be built at Meridian Water and elsewhere in the Lee Valley. A council spokesman said, "The new Meridian Water station will receive 2 to 4 trains per hour from September 2019. The council is also exploring further improvements through its Housing Infrastructure Fund bid, which seeks £156 million of government investment. If the bid is successful, £40 million will be spent on improving the train service to 6 to 8 trains per hour by 2024, in advance of full 4-tracking to Broxbourne and Crossrail 2. The resulting frequency of trains will support the accelerated delivery of up to 10,000 homes at Meridian Water." A Network Rail spokesman said, "We have had early discussions with Enfield to provide advice on how their future proposals could interface with our wider strategic plans. The infrastructure we are constructing for the £170 million Lee Valley Rail programme has been designed to provide provision for a potential 4th track to be laid in future, avoiding substantial costs where possible should the West Anglia element of Crossrail 2 be delivered. All has been designed to accommodate both the new track and a possible 4th track, reducing potential costs for any future project." Enfield North MP Joan Ryan has been campaigning for the West Anglia main line to be upgraded for several years. She told the Dispatch, "Politically speaking, Crossrail 2 has good support, but the overrunning and overspend of Crossrail 1 is not good news for Crossrail 2. The government is not proving itself competent at delivering big infrastructure projects. 4-tracking would have a big impact in Enfield because we don't have the underground here and our train lines are critical. I get a lot of complaints about this line because we have a lot of commuters who depend on it and a growing population, particularly in the eastern part of Enfield. True trains per hour are useless. It needs radically improving, and we are told we need 4 tracking to make that happen. Compared to Crossrail 2, it is also cheaper and it can be done sooner.
Another sporting item, this time on rugby. Ignatians pride at further county representation. It is a source of pride for Enfield Ignatians when their young players gain county caps, and some of the club's most promising prospects have been representing Middlesex and Hertfordshire. Cian Linnane and Ethan Robinson both featured in the Middlesex under-18 side, which proved too strong for their Surrey counterparts after a comprehensive 38-10 win at Harpenden. Similarly, Ewan Rennie and Caro Sango both represented a Hertfordshire under-20 side, which demolished an Old Albanians under-20 academy side after clocking up more than half a century of points. Ignatians spokesman Martin Baker said, "The club are very proud of our county players and it rightly reflects well on our youth section. The club also runs a girls section, which acquitted itself very well in the Royston tournament, in which it was represented at under 11, under 13 and under 15 age group level." After pitting themselves against teams from Hertfordshire, Essex and Buckinghamshire, the age groups featuring Ignatians players each won 2 of their 3 games.
A notice from the London Vision Working Age Forum about an event on Wednesday the 27th of February from 6 till 8 p.m. Booking closes on the 18th of February. We live in an exciting time of constant technological innovation with advances happening on a day-to-day basis. We believe that with the right kind of guidance, developers can create assistive technology that empowers blind and partially sighted people to achieve things they previously might have thought impossible. Our guest this month, Steve Tyler, has spent decades managing innovative tech projects that have led to significant leaps in the accessibility of products for the V1 community. In this session, he will tell us more about some of the work he's involved in, how he's leveraged tech to support him through his long career, and how you yourself may be able to help him further improve the assistive tech support available to vision-impaired people. Steve has been heavily involved in leading legislative and regulatory changes, such as the standards that saw the introduction of Braille being produced on pharmaceutical packaging. Steve also sits on the Accessibility Strategy Board for Google and Microsoft and is heavily involved in various other assistive tech products.
I have an item here which is headed up Cinema in Suburbia, and Talkies founder David Williamson introduces this year's Here Film Festival. Talkies Community Cinema is presenting its 5th annual Here Suburban Film Festival at various venues in Enfield throughout February and March. The festival celebrates the diversity of interest, people and places in the suburbs of London. He stresses we don't mimic the West End, South Bank or Shoreditch. We are proud to be in the suburbs. This is where the film creatives of London produce their best output, where life is a rich tapestry of race, religion and culture. Here, of course, is where most of London lives. We're lucky to have such talented people around us who are prepared to talk about their work. Perhaps our proudest achievement in the festival is the short films we commission from young filmmakers. Our latest 4 commissions take the total to 23 films in all. Each has been shot in or around Palmer's Green, probably making us the most filmed part of Enfield. Who knows? In time, perhaps Palmer's Green will become the new Hollywood Hills. Sophie Ansell, director of The Girl in the Shed, says the Talkies Commission is an amazing opportunity for me as a new director. They provide an incentive to get going, the creative freedom to develop ideas, and the support that helps to make it happen. My Talkies mentor, scriptwriter Jason Sutton, has been brilliant, giving me the confidence to take a lead and create a short film that I hope will do well on the national and international festival circuit. Previous alumni have gone on to have wide professional success. Kate Herron, one of the 2017 filmmakers, is directing the new Netflix series Sex Education, and Charlotte Regan was also a 2017 BAFTA nominee for the Best Short Film. The festival programme launches with the British independent film Funny Cow on Saturday the 16th of February at Waterhouse Hall in Winchmore Hill, and it's introduced by a cast member, the local actor Lindsay Coulson. The film is about a female comedian, played by Maxine Peake, breaking through the glass ceiling of an all-male comedy circuit in the 1980s. Lindsay has an impressive career in TV films and dramas, including EastEnders, The Level and The Bulletproof. She lives in Palmer's Green and is an ambassador for Chicken Shed Theatre, as well as being an active mentor in many local schools. Kurt Barling, a former BBC London correspondent and now professor of journalism at Middlesex University, hosts the Lives of Londoners at the Dugdale Centre on Thursday, the 21st of March, using film to introduce 10 Londoners who he has met and whose experience mark key social and political events during the last 15 years. On Saturday, the 23rd of March at Waterhouse Hall, on our 40th anniversary, Talkies revived the iconic 1979 film Quadrophenia, as part of which was, of course, shot locally, and local musicians are forming the Who tribute band as an introduction. Other events include London Unplugged by director Nick Cohen and producer David Cohen, and Beast, introduced by producer Ivana McKinnon, whose work includes Slumdog Millionaire, The Descent, and The Scouting Book for Boys.
Do you live in rented accommodation in Enfield? There is short notice for this event, which takes place on Monday the 11th of February. And it's a tenants' forum, which is organised by the Enfield Housing Partnership and which is free to attend. you can learn more about your rights as a tenant, rent deposit protection, your landlord's duties, HMO licensing, legislative and welfare benefit changes, safety in the home, disrepair, universal credit, and homelessness. This Tenants Forum takes place on Monday the 11th of February between 6 and 8 p.m. at Trinity Bowes Church and Centre Plus. That's in Palmerstone Road, Palmer's Green, London, North 22, 8RA. No booking is required, but for more information you can email Enfield Housing Partnership, that's all one word, Enfield Housing Partnership @gmail.com, or you can phone 0208 375 4215. And my last item is an appeal from Mira Glavardanov of the Enfield North Labour Party, who writes a letter to the Enfield Dispatch asking you to help end austerity. Mira writes, Enfield North Labour Party passed a no-cuts budget resolution on Thursday the 17th of January. Thursday the 17th of January. Members are urging Labour-run Enfield Council to refuse to pass the catastrophic Tory cuts that are slashing public services. The council is preparing to implement a further £18 million worth of Tory cuts, even though it has already cut £178 million since 2010. More vital services will be cut, which will affect the poorest and most vulnerable people in Enfield. Already 39% of children in our borough live in poverty, according to the End Child Poverty Coalition. How many more after the newest cuts? The resolution calls for the council to use all the legal means at their disposal. This includes use of the financial reserves and borrowing powers, as well as the demand on the central government to immediately grant funding back to pre-austerity levels in 2010. Members are planning a lobby of the council on the budget setting date of Wednesday, the 27th of February. Please join us.
Our final item is a short but very telling letter. It's headed, Use Them or Lose Them. Let's get behind our local businesses, shops, charities. In these challenging times, shop local. Use them or lose them is the message. So when you do your shopping, give it a bit of thought. We've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Geoffrey, Joan, Colin, Sonia and Hass on the controls, it's goodbye.
Bye.
Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet. Put the memory stick into the packet in a closed position and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget, you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper on 020 8805 6578. Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.